Israel has announced a major expansion of its military ops in Gaza, with possible plans to seize large portions of that region, designate them as security zones. The operation also involves large-scale evacuation of Palestinian residents. The Israeli Defence Minister said the goal is to destroy and clear the area of terrorists and any terrorist infrastructure, saying that it would require large-scale evacuations. Did not disclose the exact amount of land that Israel plans to seize. What's the next phase of this war? How long it could go on? And more importantly, the repercussions of some of these plans that Israel has. Let's get in Dr. John Harrison, who's an expert in the Middle East politics, joining me live from Abu Dhabi to talk more about this. So the fact is, Dr. Harrison, that there is no ceasefire anymore between Israel and Hamas. And there is no update on how that entire issue will be resolved, given the fact that hostages still remain with Hamas. In the backdrop of that, how do you see Israel's next phase of this war?
Well, thank you for having me. Unfortunately, the ceasefire did break down. And I think while certainly both sides are pointing fingers at the other, Hamas bears more of the responsibility for this. These Israeli efforts, to the moment at least, from what they publicly stated, is that they would like to expand the security zone last week or 10 days, that there are more Palestinians who are publicly willing to challenge Hamas and its position as self-declared leaders of the community. So there's a political opportunity here where the Israelis have largely degraded, if not destroyed, the military capacity of Hamas, but the political capacity remains in place. And we've seen the targeting over the last 10 days or so of the political leadership. This is an effort, I think, to draw Hamas out and to make sure that it is not only just militarily incapable of continuing, but also politically incapable, which then opens up space for a potential other leadership to emerge and perhaps expand the possibility of a more lasting ceasefire.
How hopeful are you that some of what Israel's thought process is likely to bear fruit and some of this war could see a closure anytime soon?
Well, I mean, there are two parties involved in the action, and certainly Hamas has taken a position where it does not seem to want to engage with the peace process. They are accused, at least, of rejecting a continuing ceasefire offer that the United States put forward. The Egyptians and the Qataris are certainly moving to try and reestablish peace, and for all concerned, and particularly for the Palestinians living in Gaza, a ceasefire is the desired outcome. But there are ways of getting that, and certainly Hamas has to be willing to engage with a process that really ends up releasing the hostages that they took back on October 7th.
Right. And finally, the fact is, at the end of the day, Israel's stated goal is also to bring back some of those hostages. The figures may be disputed, but anywhere between 25 to 35 could be the kind of hostages still with Hamas. Are you hopeful that these measures would bring back some of those hostages?
Certainly, Hamas had the opportunity to be able to do that, and they chose not to. It is obviously devastating for the hostages and their families, but for Hamas to be holding human shields and to be using not only Israelis but their own population as that, I think sends a message on kind of where they think their power is and what they think should happen. Peace is better for all concerned, particularly for the thousands, tens of thousands of Palestinians who are at risk. But it's ultimately Hamas's choice on this, and that they have to start making decisions that are beneficial not just for their organization, but for their population.
Indeed. And finally, sir, very quickly, at the end of the day, you're right about the fact that this breakdown of peace talks took place because of Hamas's refusal to move ahead. How much do you think US is going to back in Israel's next measures to try and identify possible peace areas?
Certainly, the United States, the current Trump administration, is far more supportive of an aggressive approach to Hamas than the Biden administration was. So there is some political and military space available to them, but it is not unlimited. And I think both the Israelis and the American administration realize this, that there is some scope, but politically it is not an open-ended commitment that the United States is going to be able to sustain, so that there's going to have to be some movement. And again, while both sides certainly bear some responsibility here, Hamas, at least for this round, has to start making better decisions.
All right, let's leave it there, sir. Thanks much for speaking to me today on a very important story.